Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage tonight's distinguished speaker, Dr. Temple Grandin.
It's really great to be here. Lots of things to talk about tonight. And I think one of the first things to talk about is always get asked about what exactly is autism. Well, it goes all the way from someone like Einstein, who had no language till age 3, to somebody that can't dress themselves. See, a little bit of that trait gives some advantage. Too much of the trait, you're going to have a whole lot of problems. And I want to help the kids that think differently to go out there and be everything they can be. Let's look at research on some of the really creative minds out there. Many of them did not complete a conventional path. Now, there's a lot of others that did. I looked up a lot of people to put in this slideshow, and I found a lot of people that did go on a conventional path. But I'm worried today, with the way education's going, that a lot of the sort of kind of different kind of creatives are going to get screened out. They also did not over-specialize. Okay, this is one of my most important slides. This is the different kinds of thinking. When I first started my career, I thought everybody was a visual thinker like me because I think in pictures. Everything I think about is in pictures. I'm a photorealistic visual thinker. Now, another kind of mind is the pattern thinker. This is your mathematician. Thinks in patterns instead of pictures. So those are your engineers, your mathematicians, and then the object visualizers, they're the industrial designers. Then you have the word thinker. These are the kids that love history. They love words. They're not mathematicians. They're not visual thinkers. They're not the kids that are going to go into engineering. But they might be really good at something like specialized retail. They'll know everything in the store. Now, there's scientific evidence to show that these different kinds of thinking actually exist. And those references to those scientific studies are in my book, The Autistic Brain. You want evidence-based? I can give you evidence-based on this. Now, artificial intelligence is going to not replace the general practitioner. I talked to some students today, and they thought the general practice doctor would get replaced by AI. No, it's going to be the super specialist that's going to get replaced. Radiology, yep, AI can already do that better. Now, the thing is, both an artificial intelligence program and someone like me is a bottom-up thinker. You take information and put it into categories. So when you train the AI program, you show it a whole bunch of x-rays, okay, these ones have got cancer, and these ones don't. Then you have a whole lot of experts put the data in there. In autism, concepts are formed from specific examples. When I was a little kid, I sorted dogs from cats, and I did it by size. And then our next-door neighbors got a dachshund. I could no longer sort dogs and cats by size. So I had to find another sensory-based feature I could sort them with. Barking and smell, also nose shape. Now, the problem with top-down thinking is they tend to overgeneralize. When you think in words, you overgeneralize. And one thing I'm very concerned about in a lot of policy stuff is people are getting too abstract. Let's just take animal issues, for example. Back in the 70s, you had people right and left on the issue. Things were more moderate. But now you've got people where it's all theory. They're a philosopher or they're a lawyer. They haven't been doing hands-on. See, hands-on stuff in anything teaches practical problem solving. And top-down thinking and policy overgeneralize. They got to get out in the field and find out what's happening. Okay, what would happen to a child like me today? I had no speech until age 4. I would get really good early intervention. That is something that would be done with me today. And when I was 3, I had really severe symptoms of autism. And then you can have the kid that has no speech delay. Those have a lot of overlap with ADHD. People get way too hung up on these labels. They're not accurate. I'm trained as a hardcore scientist. You know, if you got tuberculosis or something like that, they can tell you exactly what strain of tuberculosis you got. It's a hardcore definitive test. You know, autism, a little bit of autism is geeks and nerds. I've been out to Silicon Valley. I've been to those places. Well, half those programmers are a little bit on the spectrum. The thing is, a brain can be more thinking, or a brain can be more social emotional. Now, I get asked all the time, how do you tell what kind of thinker a little kid is? It's not going to show up in kindergarten. It usually really shows up 3rd or 4th grade. That's when my art ability really showed up. You got a 3rd grader that can do higher math? Don't make them do the baby stuff. Like Katherine Johnson, they were giving her college books like in 6th grade. Let her move ahead. And I've had teachers go, oh, but that's not age appropriate. And I'm going, bull, you know what? That's just bull. That's all that is. Because I want to say, the kid go out and be successful. Get into a career that they are going to like. Take the thing the kid is interested in, broaden it. He likes trains. Okay, let's do mathematics with trains. We can read about trains. Let's draw a picture of the station. You know, take that thing and broaden it out. I spent hours experimenting with little kites. There's a lot of kids today, they're scared to make a mistake. I spent hours and hours making things. In high school, I rode horses. I worked with cattle. I learned carpentry. I had a very interesting experimental psychology class that had optical illusions in it. And I was a poor student except for reading, writing, and biology. My reading and writing was, by the time I was in 7th grade, was real super good. Math, that was terrible. Here's my work experience. Mother got me a little sewing job at 13 in the cash economy. Horse stall cleaning at 15. I basically ran a horse barn when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. Roofing at 16, most fun I ever had. Now I was weird. So when you're weird, what you got to do is you got to show off your work. You sell your work rather than yourself. So I'd go into an interview, I'd put the drawings out on the table. And when I'd whip one of those out, and it was not on PowerPoint back in these days, it was a big fold-out thing, they went, wow, you did that. Showing off the work. You sell your work. There's my brochure. Real professional-looking brochure, nothing on there about autism. And I lived in the Oasis Apartments. Doesn't sound real classy, does it? So I renamed it the Oasis Building, Suite 218. Not Oasis Apartments, Apartment 218. No Google Street View to give me away in the 70s. Let's look at who builds a big, complicated place, like a big food plant. And this has been true for everyone. I've worked at all of the major companies. The visual thinkers work down in the drafting department, and they lay out the complicated conveyors. And then the quirky guys in the shop invent the new equipment. And your degreed engineer, we need you, boilers, refrigeration, the soil work, civil engineering stuff. We need the different kinds of minds. But you know what? They're having problems today finding the good visual thinkers. Yeah, they're addicted to video games rather than building things with welders and building things in the shop. The drafting has gotten absolutely positively disgusting because people are drawing things on a computer, but they're not seeing the drawings. See, the problem is that the person that draws that drawing has never drawn by hand. So you make mistakes like not knowing where the center of the circle is, and they've never built anything. And it's not good, because you need that visual side of engineering. Oftentimes it doesn't get enough credit. One thing I can say for meat plants is they're really democratic. The engineers and the drafting all get located in the boiler room. Another big argument that you get into in science is observation part of science? Yes, it is. What's astronomy? You observe. You know, some people think to be science, you got to have a controlled experiment. Yes, that's an important part of science. But how about epidemiology? You get a case of food poisoning here, then I get another case over there, and you have to piece the pieces together. See, that's bottom-up thinking. It's a science. And when I learned that my visual thinking was different, it gave me a lot of insight. I made the mistake on one job. They yanked a bunch of rails out of the ceiling. And I said, well, couldn't they see it? Well, no, I found out the mathematicians don't see it. Let's take the iPhone. Steve Jobs was an artist. He made the interface that's easy to use. The engineers had to make it work. That's the different kinds of minds working together. But I'm getting concerned that with some of the changes in education, we're screening out too many of our visual thinkers. We need them